This week, Elon is cutting. Sorry, I'm so out of sort here. There we go. All right, this week, Elon is cutting jobs. Yay or yee or yay, it depends on how you say it. Plans on buying Parler, and a first generation iPhone is sold for more than $39,000. Those are some of the tech news stories from this week, and it's Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. My name is Kirk Corliss.
I'm Scott Ertz.
And I'm Abram Pelch.
And this is episode 112 and the last of 3 special episodes of GNC Week in Review /F5 Refresh Technology Podcast, proud partner of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's episode. We are live on gncweekly.com/live, so please be sure to say hello and chat or comment. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to the GNC WIR channel on YouTube. If you missed a live video, that's okay. You can always catch the replay later. If you are a new listener, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, where you can find in the right-hand side column at gncweekly.com, be it Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. You have a comment, be it on social media or email, and those links can be found at gncweekly.com/connect. So this is the last episode or last special episode of our partnership with F5 Reflecting Technology. I've been having so much fun over the past 3 Sundays for this time. Right. That is absolutely right. So I have been enjoying working on it, on pulling all the topics together, and working on, our side or GNC Week in Reviews topics and top stories. So it's been great. Had a lot of fun. And Abram, how you doing, my friend?
Great. Had a quiet weekend. Spent a lot of time programming stuff for my job when I should have been doing other stuff for my job or stuff with the family. But I guess you ever get into those things where it's like in kind of bad mood and like trying to figure out code problems just makes you feel better.
Yep.
So like the other day,
at least allows you to divert your energy, your anger in a different direction.
I don't know. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine at work. I maintain a kind of like, I wouldn't say secret, like a separate server where we do a lot of like special tools and reports for people and the company. And the other day I was talking with my friend in the men's room, like that's where we do all of our meetings, not on purpose. I mean, just like, hey, how's it going? And he was like, hey, and I was like, hey, you're in charge of the social stuff now. I could give you a report of like how every site that our company owns does on social. Can you want me to create something like that for you? I was like, yeah, that would be nice. And but it's no rush. I was like, I'll do this. I'll go back to my desk and do it this weekend. I'm like, whoa, how come I spent like 12 hours on this? Problem resolved. And then I figured out, I just have to say this as a public service announcement, the weirdest, like, scary bug on my computer, that one of the weirdest scary bugs that I've ever had, and it turned out to be nothing, but I thought that maybe somebody was grabbing my screen, because there was a thing. I'll tell you what it was, and then you tell me whether you would panic, get concerned if you saw this. I was randomly getting a situation where I would see a little like circle on my screen. The screen would get a little dark, and it would do like a camera effect, like whoosh, like that, but for like a millisecond, for like less than a second. So it looked sort of like the thing that happens when you take a screenshot with your phone, where the screen goes a little dark. But it also did this sort of, although on your phone it usually goes whole dark, but this was James Bond, effect, where it was like that circle. It was like a circle of like gray or whatever would go in it, but for like so fast. And I was like, oh man, is there like an invisible window pop in the back? Do I have some type of a malware? I mean, if a malware was taking screenshots, it wouldn't look like that anyway. So that's really weird.
Right.
But like, what would be causing that to happen? So I was like, I went and I was like uninstalling some utilities I have. Like, could it be that? Right. I ran a massive virus scan, found nothing. And It happened for a couple of days, and I was like, maybe I made it go away. And then it happened to me again yesterday. And I was looking around. And I was like, I just wonder. I had recently, like maybe a week and a half ago, installed Microsoft Power Toys. Microsoft Power. So I went looking through Microsoft Power Toys and trying all the different things that they have keyboard shortcut. Yesterday, it happened to me while I was typing something. I was like, I must have hit a keyboard shortcut for something and not known it. But what keyboard shortcut would make that happen?
Right.
That's so weird. And it was happening in different programs. So it wasn't a particular program.
Right.
I found it. There is a feature in Windows Power Toys, which is a neat little free utility you can download from Microsoft called Find My Mouse Pointer.
Yeah.
If you hit Control 2 times, it creates a little circle that goes and finds your mouse pointer and highlights it for you. Now, in the normal circumstances, it would just highlight your thing and your mouse pointer, and it would stay there. So it wouldn't just be like something that just flashed for like half a second. But if you've hit any other key while it's doing it, then it just disappears faster than you can see it, like really register it. So what happens is you accidentally hit left control twice, and you have this on. But you also hit another key after while you're typing, then it will just make a really quick circle appear.
Sure.
Like that. And that's what it was.
Because the other key is dismissing the finder.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Before it even like gets to showing you the pointer or anything. So
my first thought when you described it was, I wonder if it's a pointer finder. I can't wait to see how this story goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean so anyway, that's a long story short, and nothing bad. I just when I saw that, I was like, there's something malicious going on here.
Sure.
Right. That would freak me out too. And trying to find out every possible way to get it fixed. So no, kudos to you.
And it happened seemingly at random without prediction. Yeah, because it was a typo that I was
right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can see where the panic would come from for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, not a bad feature of Power Toys, but I turned it off just because.
Especially for somebody who has installed the utility for that purpose before. That's why my mind went to it right away. But I'm like,
right,
it shouldn't be going right away. So maybe it is something else. Let's find out.
Right. Yeah. So the fact is, if you because I wasn't doing it on purpose, it was canceling it so fast that you couldn't see it. So anyway,
wow, fascinating.
All right. Well, let's jump in the news for this week. So we're still on the Elon watch and the news about him buying Twitter before he and the company are going on trial. Now it's being reported that he plans to lay off most of Twitter's workforce if and when he becomes owner of Twitter, or the social media company. This is coming from the Washington Post on Thursday. Excuse me. Musk has told prospective investors in his Twitter purchase that he plans to cut nearly 75% of Twitter's employees base of 7,500 workers, leaving the company with a skeleton crew. This is coming from the report. The newspaper cited documents and unnamed sources familiar with the deliberations. Twitter and representative for Musk's attorney, Alex Spiro, did not immediately respond to requests to messages seeking comment. Wedbush, an analyst on Dan Ives, says, quote, a 75% headcount cut would indicate at least allocate stronger free cash flow and profitability, which would be attractive to investors looking to get on the deal. That said, you can't cut your way to growth. He also added that such a drastic reduction to Twitter's workforce would likely set the company back years. So this is going to be interesting, where he's going to have a skeleton crew of only not many people, but this is going to be a sign of
it's still like 2,400 people,
right?
That's
a lot of people
to work on a product that seemingly doesn't really change that much.
Yeah, that's was what I thought. Like, on the one hand, first of all, I I hate this. If the fact that Twitter has these people probably means they were doing something that of some importance, but would you notice right away? Because like as long as the servers keep running, right? Like they don't really make a lot of development changes to it. How many developers does it really have? You know, so a lot of these people might be in something like sales and moderation, right? And he certainly has signaled that he doesn't care for moderation,
Right.
So that's something that could end up going, you know, either
or certainly scaled back
entirely or in part. So, you know, and then there's not a lot. I mean, you could leave the tool as is, you know, the tool set as is, and not change it for a long time, and I don't think anybody would notice or care. I mean, I guess the edit button people care about. I mean, that's the kind of, you know, he'd like to, but you know, you can do that with 2,000 employees or 2,400 employees. So I don't know what Twitter does with 7,500 employees. It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot of people involved in different kinds of customer support, whether the customer is a user who needs to be reported, somebody who wants a blue check, or a client that is buying advertising on Twitter.
But but his nagging bug of his butt was the bots. So by getting rid of a lot of people and having a quote unquote skeleton crew, you know, you're going to need, supposedly you're going to need someone or more than some people to take control of the bots. So how's that going to happen now?
So my thought on this is that it's less about shrinking the workforce and more about shrinking the number of existing Twitter people that are there. My suspicion is that if this were to happen, again, if I remember correctly, this is still based on some rumor and conjecture more than confirmed reports. You know, I don't think that Elon Musk has come out and gone, "You're right." But if this is accurate, my guess is it's more about getting rid of the people who have said, "Well, if Elon buys the company, he's going to fire everybody," or "I'm going to quit," and him coming in and going, "You're right, get out," and then replacing people in departments. I have a feeling it's more about that personally.
I first of all, we're taking him too serious. Well, okay. I seriously believe he wants to do this, and I seriously believe that we're serious. Like, even though he's one of the richest men in the world, and he obviously has run some successful businesses, like he's a rational business person who's doing things for rational business purposes.
Right.
He signed up to Parler because he wants to make some type of political statement or something, and he has enough money to do that. If I were Elon Musk, I would spend that money on a 4090 card and a few streaming services. But he, like the bot thing, I don't believe that he was serious about that. I think
he was trying to get a cheaper price.
I think he was trying to either get a cheaper price or get out of the deal. Yeah, I don't think he's going to actually assign people to fix the bots, because I don't think I think that's a red herring. And you know, I don't think he wants. I mean, I don't think that he can say, you know, sure, I'm sure there's a handful of people who may have said things publicly that they don't like his ownership that work there, and you know, he probably doesn't even need to terminate those people because they're going to quit. Like, so I think he really wants to make massive cuts here. There are some things he doesn't want the company to do, like moderate content, and he has to, obviously he's in a bad position business wise with it, because it's not a good investment, and he just did it to, you know, for personal reasons, basically,
to do it.
And you know, so now He's going to try and look like but one thing that you can say about Musk is that he really cares what people think of him. Like that, you can see that there's kind of like a gaping void there that he just wants to be admired, and he wants to, I don't know, he wants to be admired. He wants to be admired by a certain set of people. He wants to insert himself in everything. Like now he wants to just make decisions about, whether, what Ukraine should do in its war with Russia. Like, dude, you're running a car business and a space business. You should not be telling other countries what to do with their territory, right? So he just wants to show that he's boss. What better way than to lay people off? That also will make the could temporarily make the company more profitable, appear more profitable because you cut costs dramatically. I think Twitter is going to go down in flames. Either he's find that he can't change things very much, or it's going to go down in flames. My belief is in the latter.
And you brought up a good point, Abram, because then also he mentioned to a few people, and it was also reported that he was pissed that he overpaid for Twitter. And so everything you're dissecting is spot on. And also too, you got to keep in mind there's a lot of companies that there's mergers that has happened, and there has been layoffs, but not on this grand scale. I mean, that's huge. I mean,
other than maybe two similar or nearly identical companies merging and having large redundancies, departments that don't, but that's not what's happening here.
Right.
Nowhere inside of Tesla does there exist an entire social media content development and moderation department. So we're not looking at redundancies here. So the thing that I find interesting about the number is, and part of the way that I arrived, so the way I arrived at my thought on it was a little bit of what Avram said, in that he has a need to feel validated and respected and liked, and whatever the thing is that's happening in his head that causes him to do weird emotional things. And several employee surveys inside of Twitter that just so happen to coincide with the percentage amount. They range between 73 and 78% of the employment believe that anything from Elon's a terrible person and should spontaneously combust to he's going to destroy the company. And so, you put those numbers together and I see whatever this psychosis is.
Resulting.
Why, if you were them, why would you want him to own the company? He's said that he thinks that most people there don't belong. He thinks it's run terrible. He thinks the people there are terrible. He wants to tear down half of the things that they're doing. Yeah, I can't blame the employees. By someone who's shown public contempt for you and your work,
right?
For sure.
And he did throw the CEO under the bus.
He threw them all under the bus at different times.
Good point.
Or whatever. So
past, present, and future.
Right. So I mean,
good point.
So I mean, yeah. He likes to talk a big game.
Yeah.
So either he's going to drive the site into the ground slowly or quickly, or he's going to find that, or some business sense is going to prevail, and he's not going to actually, he's going to get bored and not make the changes or be able to fall through with the changes that he said, and then eventually try and dump it off to other people at that point. But there's no law of nature that says that Twitter has to continue to exist.
Right.
True.
There's no law of nature that says that any social network has to continue to exist.
Give
Just
MySpace a call and ask them how that went.
It would be very easy for someone to create another site to take the place of it, or maybe if there's a site that's exactly like Twitter that replaces it, maybe people are spending their time doing other stuff. I personally, as a journalist, have found it useful, but frankly, I get really depressed about all the talk things going on there. I'm happy. You know what? Take me off. It's fine.
Well,
I'm expecting to have to stop using it myself.
Well, speaking of purchases and alternatives, from staff writer Jen Thorpe from geeknewshunter.com is reporting that a press release on PR Newswire titled, quote, "Yay," I don't know if it's yay or ye, yay, okay.
There has been conversation about that.
Oh, okay. Formerly known as Kanye West to acquire Parler platform. This was posted on Monday. From the press release, Parliament Technologies announced today, this was on Monday, that has entered an agreement in principle to sell Parler, the world's pioneering uncancelable free speech platform, to Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. Ye has become the richest black man in history through music and apparel, and is taking a bold stance against his recent censorship from big tech, using his far-reaching talents to further lead the fight to create a truly non-cancelable environment. Ye says, quote, "In a world where conservative opinions are considered to be controversial, we have to make sure we have the right to freely express ourselves. The proposed acquisition will assure Parler a future role in creating an uncancelable ecosystem where all voices are welcome." The new press release posted a link to where Ye can be found on Parler. Jen clicked on that link, and her Safari browser said it cannot open the page because, quote, because the page's address is invalid. The press release also says, under the terms of their agreement in principle, the parties intend to enter into a definitive purchase agreement and expect to close during the first quarter of 2022. The terms of the proposed transaction would include ongoing technical support from Parliament and the use of private cloud services via Parliament's private cloud and data center infrastructure. According to Engadget, the deal appears to be happening quickly, with the company behind Parler, Parliament Technology, saying that the parties expect to close the transaction in the fourth quarter of 2022. The acquisition price was not revealed. So to me, it seems like it's like every rich guy, who has either a chip on her shoulder or doesn't like free speech or is against it, can just buy a social media company and just basically go nuts with it. I mean, come on.
Also, I take issue with this. Oh, it's for free speech. It's who they moderate. So I like to see if somebody goes on there with a point of view that they don't endorse, how free the speech is going to be. Yes, it seems that everybody with a chip on their shoulder. And by the way, just to be really clear, Kanye was recently banned from Twitter, not for expressing, well, you know what, I'll leave it to others to decide whether this is just a conservative point of view. He was banned for making anti-Semitic statements.
Right.
So you know what?
Definitely not a conservative point of view.
Right.
I mean,
exactly right.
I mean that if that's what he thinks, I guess. But like he was banned for making anti-Semitic statements. So this raises a question about the same question that Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter does, which is why do you really want an unmoderated social network? Because for all they talk about free speech, what they really are saying is we want an unmoderated one, although what they really mean is we want certain people that we agree with to not be moderated. But anyway, for whatever the reason is, serious businesses that don't like controversy. So it's very hard for them to play in the user-generated content world like social networks like Twitter and Facebook do, because they do moderate people, then they get criticized, which you're seeing. But if they moderate people, that is also a problem.
Right.
So
they get criticized for both.
They can't win. Right. So, you can't, I mean, so yes, he wasn't kicked off for expressing a mainstream right-wing political view. He was kicked off for saying things that were clearly anti-Semitic. But those are the type of calls that someone on Twitter has to make. Right. Those are difficult calls because it can be blatant or it cannot be so blatant.
And you can look at literally what this week or within the last 2 weeks, we've got Kanye making clearly anti-Semitic comments, and then you've got Ethan Klein essentially making Holocaust jokes, right? And both platforms, one theoretically conservative, though I don't know where to put Kanye West really, and you've got Ethan Klein who's to the left of Marx, and both of them had their accounts suspended for making anti-Semitic comments.
Right.
That right there, we've got a universal standard.
Right. That's a standard. Don't say that. So the thing is too, I have some empathy. I really do for the social networks and that have to deal with this, because I have worked on sites for most of my career that had some type of user-generated content. We have forums on Tom's Hardware, and when I worked at about.com, we had forums and chat rooms. And listen, I mean, they weren't popular like a social network was, but there were users posting things, right? And anytime you have users posting things, you open yourself up to problems. So when I started at about.com I don't even want to say all that, in the late 90s, okay, and it was much more the Wild West. They had a huge amount of the site was divided into hundreds of mini sites that they called guides, right? And at any given time, depending on how the company was doing, we had between 500 and 1,000 guides running, each of them run by a separate freelancer. Every guide had its own forum and at one time its own chat room, right? And the chat rooms were completely unmoderated, right? There was nobody in the chat room necessarily ever, and anyone could go in there at any time and start a chat. And we would find out, and people, and it was kind of see no evil, hear no evil for a while. Well, we don't know what people are doing in those chat rooms, but we're getting a few page views, not many actually. It wasn't many page views because the chat room didn't refresh itself, so it was just Java chat or something. Anyway, so but eventually they were like, "Holy cow, we can't do this!" And some of the pressure was, I think when Copa came out, that was a pressure on them with things like the chat room. Yeah. But the other thing is, with the forums, there was a lot of discussion about advertisers are very uncomfortable. So that's the ultimate arbiter. Advertisers are not comfortable with their stuff potentially appearing next to something that might be bad, right? Whether it's adult content or sexist, racist, whatever. So consequently, or sometimes even, what if they're talking about my competitor in the post? Although I don't know if that's necessarily bad. But anyway, the point is that there was a lot of pressure, and that, by the way, is still today why I don't know if Reddit is doing okay with this kind of stuff, but forum traffic is worth significantly less on every place that I've been than actual editorial traffic, which is good because that means that people like me could solve a job. But there's the reason is that they inherently they trust people who are professional writers and editors not to put up stuff that they would be embarrassed to advertise against, because advertisers obviously cannot, everything is done through algorithms and stuff like that. There's not an advertiser out there who's like, hey, I'm going to make sure that my ad runs next to this forum post, which I agree with, and this one that I don't. That there's not enough time in the world for or software in the world to get it to that level of granularity. So, it is not actually good for the bottom line to have no moderation.
Sure.
Right. But that raised the question, and we discussed this before in previous episodes. With Musk buying Twitter, spending billions with a B, where he can use those monies, for good use. With Starlink and investment in education. I'm a big proponent of education, and if someone's going to put all that money and power into something good,
right,
by putting money into Twitter for whatever reason, just to look, how it had this, status. That's my question. Why are these rich people, celebrities, buying these companies, to boost their ego or what
Yes.
have you, and putting it into the right avenue? That's my whole. And they're all saying that, and I agree. If I'm on Twitter or Facebook, and if I see those comments, I'll block it and report it. And the old saying is, don't cry, yell fire in a crowded movie theater. You just don't say that
unless there's a fire.
Unless there's a fire, right?
An important distinction that's usually left out.
Exactly right. But that's my whole take. I think even with Ye or whatever the hell's name is, it's like using all that money and putting it into something good that benefits the world. And despite how you feel or despite your personal beliefs, whatever, I think you're wrong in so many levels, and being you're so wrong with that, to do that, to hurt people like that and blast it on, and it hurts people. But to take that money, I just think that's a waste. It's a waste of time, money, and effort. I do.
Especially if the thing you're putting money into is Parler. I love that a retweet in Parler world is parlay. That the fact that there's pirate talk, there's pirate code built into the service amuses me to absolutely no end. But beyond that, the value of it is, it's possible. And my guess is that there is, there are probably problems internally, financially. And this was more of an injection of cash into the ecosystem than it was anything else.
Right.
Because I cannot imagine that after all the sometimes right, sometimes wrong, depending on what it is, controversy surrounding the platform, after all that stuff, I cannot imagine that they are in a good financial position with the 11 users that they have. Right. Granted, I'm one of the 11 because I had to at least see how the platform worked. But couldn't tell you when the last time I was on it was.
Same here.
Probably 2 days after they came back. But they've got no users. There's nothing actually happening over there. Even some of the biggest conservative names don't actually use it for anything other than reposting what they're posting on Twitter. People like Glenn Beck and Steven Crowder, the stuff that they post there is just an 8-second delay of what goes to Twitter. So there's nobody active on the platform. So I can't imagine that they're doing well financially. And so my guess is that that's more what this is. When you put together a couple of pieces, Kanye West bought it. Seemingly his best friend on the planet is Candace Owens. Her husband is the current CEO of the platform. I think it's a friend helping a friend, but that's based on very little information, except, third party, very far back observations.
Yeah. It's probably the most attention Parler has gotten in several years. So
yeah, since they came back from their bans.
Yeah. I don't know. It does. I think all these things do sort of raise a question, which is, are we now going to have social networks for different political points of view or different lifestyles or something, right?
Mhm.
Because if you don't, I mean, obviously we've seen it happen already. So I mean, you had the major ones, right? Or like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever are, have been supposed to be sort of like middle ground here and not
Mhm.
take a side. And apart
Yeah.
from, trying to take a side against something like hate speech.
Right.
And, if you have people buying them who have an agenda, people are eventually going to leave. So
Yeah. And I'll tell you, some of these smaller networks with like a focus can be far more fun. There's a gaming centric one called PvP. That way more interesting than anything that happens on Facebook or Twitter or probably Parler or TikTok or Gab. I'm gonna throw all the weird ones in there. I find PvP way more interesting because it's more focused on the thing that I'm interested in. So,
well, we'll see what happens in the coming days, and something will come out of it. Maybe we'll see.
my guess is it's not going to be a long turnaround.
Yeah,
Private company. There's no antitrust issues. There's no issues. My guess is it's a very quick transition. They've already announced that the technology stack is going to stay in place. There was something said on a show this week that sounded like maybe the name is going to change. There might be a rebrand, but my guess is it's going to be real quick.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. So next up, if you bought the first gen iPhone when it debuted in 2007, it would have cost you $599. Well, 15 years later, in 2022, someone paid almost $40,000 for it.
No.
Original iPhone just sold for $39,339.60 in auction. It was unused and unopened and still in its original sealed box. The item description reads, quote, collectors, investors will be hard pressed to find a superior example. Relevance and rarity comprise a winning formula for this red hot collectible. I wouldn't say red hot or not. The iPhone was listed on.
I don't know. Somebody spent $40,000 on it, so it's it's pretty hot,
right?
Maybe they're saying it's stolen.
Good question. Good question about that. The iPhone was listed on LCG auctions on September 30th, and the auction concluded on last Sunday. It was estimated to fetch $30,000 or more on the auction block,
which it did.
Right, a little over $9,000 more. The bidding started at $2,500 hours before
double the price of a current. Continue.
Right, hours before the auction ended. The top bid hovered around $10,000, but bidding ramped up as the auction neared its close.
As they do.
Of course they do. 15 years ago, Apple's CEO and co-founder, the late Steve Jobs, called it, quote, an iPod, a phone, and internet communicator all in one. Now listen to this. This is shocking. The first generation iPhone came with a 3.5-inch screen, a 2-megapixel camera, and the Safari web browser. It was initially available only with 4 gig or 8 gig of storage, but later had a 16 gig option.
Yeah.
So times have changed over the past 15 years.
Yeah, right? Because today you've got this big of a screen with a 48 megapixel on the back, but you're still saddled with Safari.
Right. Google Pixel Pro 6.
Or you could just use an Android phone.
I've got one of those around here too. It's just out of reach. I've got several of them. But you can change your default browser now. They did relent on that one. But I think you still have to use their rendering engine. So
yeah. Well, whoever has it is I wonder if it's still it's unused, unopened, So I was wondering if connecting to at that, yeah, because I think 3G doesn't
was
that
the second
end?
gen.
No,
3G was the second gen. It wasn't available in this. This is 2G.
It was
Oh,
right.
okay.
It was Edge, right?
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was a 2G phone. That's been dead.
So it's like I cut it all.
Well,
So
listen.
what did it even have Wi-Fi?
I don't think so.
Remember.
I don't think it did. Someone let us know or let us know in the comments, or let us know in the comments, or send us an email or Twitter. I don't think it had. No, I don't think so.
This is almost as wasteful as Elon Musk buying Twitter.
Or yeah, right.
I mean, it's so. Look, this is sort of like the equivalent of people who buy, and this actually most people probably who are collectors buy like, bobbleheads and like pop vinyls and never take them out of the box, right? Whereas I'm terrible. I just buy them and I take them out of the box and display them because I want to see the whole thing, right? Yeah. But like there's people who, you go on eBay and you'll find, everything ever created, somebody has and never thought to take out of the box, right?
This is not one I would have expected.
I mean, now it's just a regular iPhone that anyone at that time could have bought. Right. So this is unlike, for example, the Apple One, which was a prototype that sold recently for $700,000.
Right.
Like
very different.
That is a piece of computer history. It is a unique item. It wasn't something anybody could just buy at that time. So, that makes more sense to me than this does.
Yeah. And since it's theoretically unopened, I mean, you can buy a shrink wrapper. So
you don't. How do you know you're really getting it? Right.
There's
and
confidence.
Also,
there's confidence put into this.
Yeah. Also, unlike, I mean, this might just go without saying, but unlike toys and bobbleheads, there's not a transparent window on the box. At least I don't think that there was at that time, and there certainly is not now, where you could see inside and see that it was there. So
same box style, significantly thicker than the current ones, and I'm not entirely sure why, because they were mostly empty. The new boxes are way better, but basically the exact same box I sold at the time.
So you're saying it's Schrodinger's iPhone?
It absolutely is.
Whether it could be in the box or could not be in the box.
It could be a cat turd.
Yes. Well, this brings up an interesting point. So we have a story right now on Tom's Hardware that's actually been doing really, really well for us, as just weird news stories tend to. If it's like normal, important news, maybe it'll do okay, and maybe not. But if it's weird or annoying thing happened, then people are all over it. So the latest thing is
found your niche.
Yes, that's always our niche. But unfortunately, there isn't like something like KFC announcing a new gaming console every day. If there were, we would be riding high all the time. But the latest thing is that somebody on Reddit, and we reported on this, claims that they bought an RTX 4090 card from Newegg, paid however much it was, which was at least $1,600. And when they got it, they opened it up, and inside were two pieces of metal, no graphics card. They complained to Newegg, who, according to this thread, said, we don't believe you. And we don't, as a reader, I don't know, somebody could make it up. Sure. However, this type of problem has been known to happen, where people get shipped something and the box comes with not what they ordered, not even close.
Something that's relatively the same weight. Walmart used to have this problem all the time, that people would like buy and I don't know why it was boom boxes, but it was. They'd buy a boom box, or a DVD VHS combo. they'd put the right amount of bits of broken brick in the box and then take them back, and then Walmart would put them back on the shelf and resell them.
Well, why didn't they check it when the person was like that? They take it into return. They couldn't take like
it's
a few
handed
seconds.
It's handed to a person. A person could open it up and look inside and go, well, that's a brick. What?
Right.
Nope.
Right. So
it happened a lot.
Right. So there is no question. So if it happened from an online retailer, though, someone like an Amazon, like a Newegg, it's unlikely that it was another customer that caused the problem, right? First of all, this is a brand new card, so and I doubt anyone bought it and returned it.
Right.
So by now, so it would have to have been somebody, or in the shipping, involved in shipping it. So if it actually happened, but anyway.
It has. So stories like this have happened in the past from delivery drivers who have done it, who have figured out what was in a particular box based on size, weight, whatever, and then traded what was in the box. We've seen that happen before, particularly with product launches. The Xbox Series X was a good example of it. When it first came out, the PS5, PS4 had those issues with delivery drivers stealing the contents of the box and then putting weighted things in it. So,
and I like to think of it as an expensive paperweight.
Yeah, quite literally.
So this could be the same thing, and the person will almost certainly never know,
right?
Unless what could you do? Get the box or something? I don't know.
All right. Well, with that. And now it's time for F5 refreshing technology and nifty gifties.
This week's nifty gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology and GNC Week in Review is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. A few minutes ago, we were talking about on GNC Week in Review, we were talking about an iPhone, a first-gen iPhone that sold for a lot of money. And while old tech and old phones might be seeing a spike in sales right now, the new smartphone market seems to be seeing a decline. In fact, it's the third quarter in a row that phone sales have dipped, this time 9% year over year. Obviously, we see these dips in technology from time to time. Oftentimes, like when it comes to computers, laptop sales, we see it when there's not a lot of change or a lot of innovation in the computer industry. It's possible that that's what we're seeing here. We've talked about on both shows over the last couple of years that especially in the smartphone market, there's been a lot of increment and not a lot of big wow. So it's possible that's what we're seeing here. Samsung retained the top position, 22% of the market. Apple, interestingly, is the only big brand to see positive growth, which is interesting as their prices continue to rise on their devices. They're seeing growth. Hopefully, they're talking that these numbers are in units and not in dollars, because it could just simply come from the increase in prices. An analyst with Canalys,
That's right, Canals. Yep, that's how I pronounce it.
Amber Lou said the smartphone market is highly reactive to consumer demand, and vendors are adjusting quickly to the harsh business conditions. For most vendors, the priority is to reduce the risk of inventory building up given deteriorating demand. Now, we've seen exactly this kind of across the board, right? There's been talk. Target has been doing huge inventory reduction recently. I think Kohl's has been in a similar position in clothing, in electronics, and all kinds of things. So it seems that demand for a lot of things is down right now with retailers and manufacturers reducing their inventory to try and stop the bleeding. Obviously, some of this we know is, a response to hardware issues. But what do you guys think? Do consumers just don't care? Is it the devices aren't interesting?
There's a lot. So what you're talking about is also going on, just to put it in some context, it's also going on in the world, right? You may have seen talk about declines in laptops and declines in sales of processors. However, what the fine print doesn't tell you is that a lot of these declines are based on declining over what was a pandemic market, which was, and in the case of graphics cards, what was also a crypto market. And so, they're actually not necessarily response to the quality of the product or response to even inflationary or recessionary pressures, but that like, hey, we really should be evaluating ourselves against like 2019 or something to see what normal looked like. And compared to that, things may still actually look good. But you know how business cycles go. If you have an explosive growth because of some exterior factor, people and investors and media are like, oh, you've shrank. Well, listen, the explosive growth isn't going to, if there's an external factor for the explosive growth, like pandemic stuff. Now, actually, that doesn't necessarily, I don't know if what the effect on phones was. After all, that means you're probably going out less, so you need your new phone less.
Right.
Something that's TV, something that's stationary. But at the same time, who knows? Because more. But the other point is that there is not a great reason for people to upgrade. So, we were talking earlier about iPhone, right? And there were some really big inflection points where every year or two, like, I remember working in I was working in the industry at Laptop Mag not long after iPhone came out. And like every new phone, it was like, there were a lot of people who were like, do you remember? This doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. Where people were like, oh man, having to upgrade only once every 2 years is such a drag because my phone feels so old after like 6 months or a year. And it did, right? Because you'd have a and then like you were on 3G and all of a sudden, a year later, all the people would be on 4G and your contract or whatever made it prohibitive for you to try and so sorry, you're stuck with 3G till to after your 2 years are up. Now phones are just actually a lot of them designed and priced with the idea that you're not going to upgrade every 2 years. Because a lot of people don't upgrade every 2 years. I bet if you look at it, I bet the average upgrade cycle for phones is probably 3 or more years, and maybe more driven by people dropping them or the battery becoming no longer good, no longer holding as much of a charge, more so than desire to have new features.
That's me. I had a Google Pixel for like 3 to 4 years, then I upgraded recently when the Pixel 6 came out, the Pro. So you're right. I'm in that camp. I upgrade, until Brett's, like you stated, Abram, roughly around that 3-year mark. So I'm in that camp.
Yeah, I mean, look, my last phone, Samsung S8, I had Galaxy S8. I had what really I liked it. It was fine. What really drove me over the line to getting a new phone was not even 5G. It was I was having a lot of problems with the USB port. Like you had to be plugged in just so, or it wouldn't charge.
Yeah,
like
been there.
You blew on it, or a wind came along, or something, and it would stop charging, and you'd have to take it out and in again, or whatever.
Did you say that was an S8?
Yes.
Huh. I had the same problem with an S8.
It might be a common thing, and I had that thing for like 3, and then my wife had an S8 too, and she dropped hers and broke it, so she got a Galaxy S21, or no, what was it? Was that what it was? S20, I think. And then I was like, a few months later, I'm having this problem. My birthday was coming up. I'm gonna get a new phone now, and I got like a Pixel 4a, and I love it. It's great. Now I will say, like, what would drive me to get a new phone, and I think there's a decent chance that after it's been 2 years, I might actually do it, because there's to go to like the 6A or something is better camera, because the camera on this has been really good, but it's certainly not perfect. I take pictures of my kids a lot. I need to take pictures for work, and that's my camera. So for that reason, I would buy a new phone for better camera. There's like no other feature that I feel like I'm missing though.
Yeah, it's legitimately the only reason that I allowed this upgrade to happen, was because of the camera. Same. It had nothing to do with the phone. Because I have both of them now. I do mobile development, so I having lots of variety of devices is kind of part of my life. But I'll tell you, what is this? The 14 p.m. and in mission control out there, I've got a 12 p.m. I mean, the body is a little different, but the device isn't. The camera is, but the device isn't. The dynamic island or whatever is a nothing feature, which is kind of the point, right? Even this one big thing that they were super excited about, it's kind of a nothing feature that could have easily been implemented on the other devices. They just didn't do it.
So by the way, is like the whole. I mean, that's why we're seeing bendable screens, right? Because that's a whiz bang new feature that a lot of people for, but it's also a pretty useless feature. So, it's not helpful. So, in my opinion, so like, I don't know, that there's a lot. Everything you said is true, and I think a lot of people, if their phone is good enough and it's not broken, like frankly, if it were easier to replace the batteries, things would be even worse for the phone business.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Apple did a disservice to consumers, but definitely did a service to themselves in the industry. Encouraging the sealed battery horrible thing. But it's definitely interesting. And like you said, I don't know if the pandemic and the increase we saw in other things played any increase here, but now we're looking at 21 to 22, not even 20 to 22. So, some of that is, cooled between 20 and 21, and now we're looking at another cool off. So, it's definitely interesting. We'll see if this continues for a couple of years. You might actually see some interesting and innovative things come out of the phone companies. Who knows? This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and
improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/purevpn.
All right, Abram. Well, we had some products come out this week.
So yeah, I mean, it is so it is an exciting time to be building a PC. Intel's new Raptor Lake, otherwise known as 13th gen core chips, just came out this week, and they are now for sale. You can buy them. In particular, I mean, there's going to be a whole lot more, but there's 3 SKUs out right now, and we've reviewed them on Tom's Hardware. That is the Core i9 13900K, the Core i7 13700K, and the Core i5 13600K. These range in price from about $320 to the Core i9 is supposed to be $589, but is actually hard to get right now, and is being the best price we saw recently was like $680, so like $100 over MSRP. But the other for about 10 more than MSRP. So the Core i7 is selling for about $420, $430, and 5 is selling for about $320, $330. Anyway, these chips away in terms of both gaming and productivity performance. The previous generation Alder Lake Intel 12th gen chips, and where it's bad news for Team Red, it blows away the AMD 7000. So AMD not long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago or so, came out with their Ryzen 7000 series chips, and their Ryzen 7000 chips are much faster than the 5000 series that they had before, faster than Intel's 12th gen in a lot of cases. Added support for the first time for AMD for DDR5 RAM and PCIe 5 SSDs, but which aren't even really out yet. But AMD's chips do not perform as well as Intel's new chips, and they cost more money, and the motherboards cost a lot more money. So this is very bad news for AMD right now. They are offering you less for more, and that is not a good combination. So let's talk some hard numbers here. AMD's top chip is the Ryzen 9 7950X, which is $699 MSRP. That on our tests, and we have many of them published in our, especially in our review of the Intel Raptor Lake chips, where we compare them to AMD. So looking at, for example, our Windows 11 1080p test suite, where we run a bunch of different, a number of different games on different CPUs using the same graphics card and otherwise, same setup, but different CPU. And if it's different, and if it's AMD, it's going to have a different motherboard. So our top ranked chip, returning on the test suite, an average of 206 FPS, was the 13900K. Below that was a strange chip, the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, which is last gen AMD chip that just has a ton of cache. It's just really, that chip is particularly good for 1080p gaming because it has a ton of cache. Below that, we have the 13700K and the 13600K with 196 and 183 FPS. The first of AMD's new chips, 7900, which costs $549, is behind Intel's $300 chip. Then the Ryzen 7 7700X, a $400 chip, also behind the $320 chip. Below those two is their flagship chip, the 7950X with 179 FPS. That is on, so it is, so the $699 chip from AMD is 6 places behind the $589 chip from Intel, and also several places behind the $320 chip from Intel. Now that's gaming, but when you also look at productivity performance, you will see that only on highly threaded apps do AMD's chips stand a chance, and even their delta in performance is slight. So the Ryzen 9 7950X, for example, did the best of any chip we tested on, highly threaded, multi-threaded apps. But the Core i9 was only 3.2% behind that. There's now the reason why AMD would do better on multi-threaded is because AMD uses more real cores. Well, real is an opinion. That's my opinion. Intel uses a different process where they now have a mix of P cores, performance cores, and efficiency cores. So when you read the core count for an Intel chip, if you want to know how many cores you're getting, you got to look at the fine print, because you may not all the cores are not created equal. So, for example, the Core i9 13900K has 24 cores. Wow, that sounds really good. Only 8 of those 24 cores are P cores, meaning they're the cores that actually operate at the highest speeds. 16 of them are efficiency cores. Now, the plus of this system of having a mix of higher power and lower power cores is that you could take more of the thermal and electric budget and throw it at a few cores instead of all the cores, and therefore maybe not all your cores need to be as powerful as the others, because if your operating system is smart and it directs like the game that you're playing or the video that you're crunching or the thing that you're doing that's really high intensity to the higher performing cores, maybe that's okay. But with AMD, you don't have to worry about that. All the cores are the same. So the 7950X has 16 cores, and they're all capable of going up to 5.7 gigahertz, right? That's versus Intel's, where only 8 of them can go to the top speed of 5.8 gigahertz, and the others go to only 4.3 and are otherwise not as powerful. So, but the thing to keep in mind here is when you look at the benchmarks, Intel is coming out ahead on almost every benchmark, and their chips are cheaper. But to add insult to injury here, the cost of a motherboard for the new AMD chips is out of control. So in the case of Intel usually when a new Intel chip comes out, you have to buy a new motherboard with a new socket, and that leads to increased cost. AMD had been for many years really great about this. They had for like 4 generations used the same socket, AM4, and so you could, with a firmware update or whatever, you could get an old motherboard and use it with the new chip, and all was good. But this time, AMD switching to a new chipset, a new socket, going to DDR5 memory, going to more PCIe lanes, has amped up and using kind of a dual chiplet design for the chipset has dramatically increased the cost of their motherboards. So last I checked, the cheapest motherboard that you could get that would accommodate the new Ryzen chips was $290.
Whoa.
That is the bottom of the line.
Oh, I can't remember the last time I spent $290 on a motherboard.
Most of them are $400 or $500 for the motherboard. So now let's go back to Intel. Intel's coming out with some new 700 series chips chipsets but you are able to use the new 13th gen chips in any 600 series motherboard that's been out now for a while. So you can get a 600 series motherboard for $90, right? You
Now
can
that's a
get
difference.
right now the $90 one is a DDR. So here's another little tidbit: the Intel chips give you a choice. You can buy a motherboard that supports DDR4 or a motherboard that supports DDR5 memory. You have to pick which motherboard you want, because generally the motherboard will be one or the other, but your chip can go with either one. And DDR4 memory is much cheaper than DDR5 at the moment. With AMD, and motherboards that support DDR5 also are more expensive. With AMD, DDR5 is required now. You don't get a choice. So you have to use the more expensive RAM, and you have to get a motherboard that supports more expensive RAM. So when you add all this up, it's just bad news for AMD, because the cost is so much higher, particularly when you add the motherboard in. Now, you got to believe that AMD is having some sales issues. It looks like, I mean, so is Intel, but AMD is going to have to cut their prices. They're going to have to get a lower cost chipset out the door, and even then, their chips don't perform as well. So if they can't, at least match, if not undercut Intel on price for what you get, they're in some big trouble in the desktop market. Now, laptop market is a different space, but unlike Intel, this is kind of a big part of AMD's business. So, I mean, this is a huge part of their business, and their latest chips are not, I mean, I love the fact that AMD chips, you don't have to guess about, all your cores are the same. But Intel is giving you higher clock speeds, and they are, through a variety of means, outperforming. What are you gonna do? They're gonna have to do something if they want to stay competitive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a huge difference in potential, right? Just to get in, it's a huge difference in potential. Now, if it was like, they made all these changes because it was this big monumental change, and it was not just an incremental but a generational holy wow in performance, okay, we can have a conversation about that. But it's all this cost, all this change, and Intel still beating them? Uh-oh.
I mean, they're a lot better than the previous AMD chips.
Sure.
But that's assuming that people only want to buy AMD, and that is definitely not a good assumption.
Right.
So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, listen, I love the competition that AMD brings. I love their multi-threaded prowess. I have AMD processor in my machine, in my son's machine. I like their stuff. And very often they've usually given you more for less, not less for more. So, and this is not a good scenario for them right now. So hopefully they do something, and they don't settle into a space like they were a few years ago before Ryzen launched, where they were kind of content to not be competitive and just make cheaper stuff. But leadership matters, and since they've had their current CEO Lisa Su, they have really taken the fight to Intel, and they have picked up market share. They're going to have a lot of problems if they don't do something right now.
Yeah, agreed. In AMD for so long was, but then, a fire got lit, things changed, and, hopefully they don't fall into the Microsoft thing where they back off for a little while and let things happen, and then they get totally trounced, and they go, oh, I guess we have to try again. Which has always been, Microsoft's big issue.
Yeah. So hopefully this helps them. Hopefully they, can do something about it, and we can have more of a fair fight on our hands, even just lowering the prices. But I think what may also be happening is that Intel may be using some of their. I mean, Intel's a much wealthier company. They have a lot more sales. They have a lot more everything. They could also just undercut to try to take back that market share that they've lost.
True. Well, I think you mentioned that you've got reviews on the new products.
Yes. So come check it out on tomshardware.com. We have reviews of the new Intel chips and of the AMD chips. We have our CPU hierarchy, which shows you how each ranks. So check it out.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, as somebody who has had, AMD for the last number of generations, we've talked about it. It's powering the studio here in everything except this. We did it because it was less money, more performance. So, hopefully we'll see that swap back. And we appreciate the information. And as always, we look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology and GNC Week in Review is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. All right, it's been way too long since we've seen a new entry in the Silent Hill franchise. It's a very popular franchise that has produced some terrifying moments and iconic characters. And this week we've got new stuff coming. Now we're gonna pretend a little bit that we weren't teased with PT a couple of years ago before everything went terribly wrong with Konami, but we do have Silent Hill. We've got 2 new games, a remake. I mean, they're like, okay, well, you know what? We're back, and we're gonna hit it hard. Now, that could be good, and that could be bad, right? Because the franchise's creator is no longer with the company, and so this will be the first time that a major title comes out of Konami proper and not from the original creator. And the idea of hitting it this hard right out of the gate is a little frightening to me. I don't know about you guys. It seems like there's a lot of potential for a screw up here.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. And when it's a series, that's going to be, it's going to be hit or miss. So I don't know.
And so there's a lot of talk that Silent Hill 4 could potentially be the inspiration for Silent Hill Townfall, which is one of the 2 new titles, which could be a problem because let's call Silent Hill 4 divisive among the Silent Hill community. It wasn't well received when it came out. It has, over time, the reception has settled, and people have either come to like it or come to grips with its reality. I'm not sure which, But you know, are they going to take the most recent in the main line as its inspiration? Or are they going to possibly go back to its origins? What do you are either of you big Silent Hill fans? Let's start there.
I'm not.
No.
Not a big Silent Hill fan. I mean, I think it's good that they're coming out with some new games, but I guess we'll have to see whether they're in or not. I mean, obviously they can be people who really franchise are going to be concerned that the quality is there. But I guess it's better than to not or I don't know, maybe some. I mean, it could be like Grand Theft Auto, where by the time the next one comes out, people won't be driving anymore. They'll just be self-driving cars.
Oh, yeah, and the world's oldest profession might be legal by then. Who knows?
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a big part of the gameplay in Grand Theft Auto. We all know it.
Good point.
I think if Konami is smart, what they did was they took what they learned from the PT demo, right? Which was just a demo. It was one of the scariest short gameplay demos I've ever seen in my life. It was worth the fact that it's not playable on the PlayStation 5 is a crime. I understand that they were trying to separate themselves from Kojima, but it's disappointing that they pulled it and that it's not available to play on the bigger consoles. But hopefully they took what they learned from the, I think, unanimously positive response to that change in gameplay, and implemented here. With any announcement of this style, there's going to be a huge lead time. We know that. This was a teaser trailer at best, right? For all of this content, including the remake of Silent Hill 2, by the way, which totally on board for. But I think the best in the franchise. But there's going to be a lot of lead time. There always is with an announcement like this. So we don't know everything. We know very little. Hopefully they took what they learned from that demo and they apply it to at least one of these games, because it was everything that Silent Hill fans wanted from a new game. Townfall seems like it's the new franchise leader. Like, this is where we're headed with everything. No Code seems to be taking on the challenge. They've got a good history, but stories untold, observation. There's some possibility of bringing, those are some of their past titles. Hopefully they can bring some of that into it. I think it would be good for the franchise, but hopefully, honestly, if they take what PT was supposed to be and bring it into the franchise, I think Konami will have a hit. They obviously can't do exactly that because I imagine, Kojima would set fire to the Konami building for developing his game without him. But I mean, it's a big franchise. It's nice to see something coming back to it. Fingers crossed they don't screw it up. That's my take.
This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, and GNC Week in Review is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes.
I promise you we're not doing this on purpose, but let's talk a little bit about an Elon Musk company again. This time, it's on one of the brands that makes sense. SpaceX on Wednesday unveiled Starlink Aviation, bringing the Starlink service, which for those who have used it, has been incredibly popular. It's given people in rural communities access to internet speeds that simply were not possible before. The CEO of the tech podcast network, Todd Cochran, has it himself, and it has changed his home life significantly. Starlink Aviation will be bringing that technology to aircraft. If you've used onboard internet on an airplane before, it can be
Go.
It can be a challenge. Let's say that. Speeds aren't great. Sometimes they can be, depending on what the background service is, but generally they're usable. Starlink Aviation will change them from usable to 350 megabits per second connection speeds on the plane. The hardware is not, and the service is not going to be inexpensive for the airlines. It's going to be $150,000 to outfit a plane, and then it's going to cost between $12,000 and $25,000 per month for the service. But they're passing that on to the
Consumer
passengers anyway. You're already paying for what's there, and if you're using it, you're paying extra for it. So if you're paying for it, it might as well be better than what you're getting now. They expect to be able to deliver the hardware and the service to airlines sometime in the middle of next year, possibly faster if Elon Musk stops focusing on Twitter. Starts putting his emphasis on the companies that exist. But it's an interesting move. It's putting Starlink, it's opening up the customer base for Starlink. I think it makes sense for the company that has already challenged, mainline service providers. Why not challenge them here too?
So is that 350 megabit per second for the whole plane or for each passenger?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I don't know.
I'm going to guess it's for the whole plane.
Probably.
I'm going to get, so that may sound better than it is, because
Could be.
Sure, that was for people in your house. That's actually slow for home internet. It's better than my home internet right now, but it's not like top of the line home internet.
Sure.
For sure. And being shared among, I don't know, potentially 100 people or 200 people, right? Although who knows what the uptake actually is. It would be interesting to know how many people actually do pay for Wi-Fi on the plane. I don't know if it's, I don't work in the airline, of course, and I don't play airline executive on TV either, but it seems to me that it wouldn't make too much sense for them to pay to upgrade to retrofit planes with this, unless they had unless maybe a new plane was coming out and they had to pay. But I don't see that as a great selling point. To people. I guess maybe eventually, like all things, there will be progress, and 10 years from now you fly, people will be like, yes. And remember when we said you couldn't get you couldn't stream Netflix on the plane because there's no way that you could possibly. Well, now we do, and you can all stream your streaming service right from your airline seat. But I don't see, like, it would be interesting to know how many people actually pay for Wi-Fi in the plane and how much they're willing to pay. Because, like, yes, on a 17 flight, and they had by on going to Taiwan, sure, uh, sure, absolutely. I want my Wi-Fi. Check in, do some work, whatever, on board. But and I think it was either free or $10 or something. So fine, but I don't think people are going to spend a ridiculous amount of money to have high-speed Wi-Fi in the plane. Like, they don't really need it. I mean, in fact, it can be kind of a detriment. Like, maybe you don't want to be, like, if a plane didn't have Wi-Fi, that would be in its own way a plus, because it would be like, oh, great, now I don't have to expect to be reached when I'm in the air. Maybe I get a break, because I don't know about you guys, but I find working on the plane is, like, I've done it quite a bit, but I find it really not pleasant to do. Even like if I was in a better class of seat, but still, like, the plane is turbulent, it's shaking. It's like, I don't know. I find it, like, sitting there doing, like, a lot of work on the plane to be kind of frustrating. But so I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it. Yes, it's a nice technological advancement, but I don't think it's worth the airline paying extra, and I don't think it's worth the consumer paying extra.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I don't think there's going to be any retrofits necessarily, but possibly for new planes, you might see this, or maybe the higher end long flight jets. You might see this. Just for reference, the average go internet speed is for the plane is 70 megabits. Their top tier plan, which I think only Delta is currently using, has a maximum of 100 megabits. There's another service called Viasat, which is apparently comically expensive and is only used by Virgin America on their A320 aircraft, which might be faster than Starlink, but it looks like it's way more expensive to install. And then apparently American Airlines has a 10 megabit per second per plane maximum speed.
There you go. I guess if you're flying, you should look this up if you actually are planning to get work done, to do something on the plane. I mean, because if you're not going to work, then you shouldn't even bother paying for it. Because, I mean, like, it's not like it's great for entertainment, right? You're not going to be streaming. You're not going to be streaming movies on there. If you want to watch something, use something that's downloadable for offline.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned the lesson the hard way, because when I was on an American Airlines flight to Vegas last January, we went for CES, and I figured, oh, what the hell, let me see what it's all about. It was on for about maybe 5 minutes, then it kept me off. So now I learned my lesson. Now I'm downloading, because I watch a lot of videos. So I'm downloading everything that I have from now on, because that was a waste of money. It was like $15, I think, for that flight. And yeah, I didn't do it. That was it. From now on, I learned my lesson the hard way.
$16 plus tax.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
I got a whole comparison guide here. Well, right. The thing to be careful of course, is what you download. There was a particular Netflix series starring Gillian Anderson. People might know what I'm talking about. That opened the first episode of the first season with a uncomfortable scene that Dave Mendez, one of the PLUGHITZ live team, turned on on the plane, got super embarrassed and closed it, and it was the only thing he had downloaded for the flight. So whoopsies. So do be careful of what it is you download, and grab a couple of variety just in case a Gillian Anderson led show turns out to not be the X-Files. Because oh my god, I've seen him turn red for a couple of reasons, including eating a spicy chicken wing that made him sweat his whole head and everything. But this beat all of it. The shade he turned when that scene turned on was amazing. But anyway, I mean, it's competition in a space. There's some people will go with it because it's Starlink. You know, some companies might go with it because it's Starlink branded just in general. And, you know, there's been a lot of stability there. But, you know, who knows what the future of this might hold.
This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology and GNC Week in Review is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming. Plus, a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime.
It's been a little while since the rumors and then the confirmation and then the tests about Netflix's password sharing policy change or enforcement, not really changes in the policy, but enforcement of said policy got started. We knew that eventually it was going to come to North America and it was going to happen with vigor. And it looks like it's here. During its quarterly earnings call this week, the company said that it may begin hardlining the additional subscription fees to Netflix accounts at the beginning of next year. We know that I think there were 12 countries that they were testing this in around the world over the last 12 to 18 months. A lot in South America. I don't remember where else at this point. Australia, maybe? I feel like there was one like big country, and as far as subscriber base was for them, and everything else was some of their smaller markets. But it's coming. It's coming soon. The way we've seen in some of the other countries, it's ranged somewhere between $2 and $4 per month to have external sharing access. It looks like North America and some of the European countries will see 3 to 4, so kind of in that same ballpark per month to add somebody who is not part of your household onto your account, which has been the policy in the past. It has said that the account is per household, and they have defined in their usage policy what a household is. So we'll see what that looks like. The good news is that along with this, I don't know if you included this in here or not, Kirk, but along with this was a new feature announcement that you can now migrate your profile to and from Netflix accounts. So breakups in one way or another have just become easier, as well as new relationships have become easier as well. So you can bring your account, your profile from another account into together or separate out. So when this goes live, if you want to break up and pay the full price instead of just leaving it as it is and paying a couple bucks more, I guess you have that possibility. You can go independent, and I bring your profile with you so you don't lose all your watch history and your recommended stuff. So there's that. I don't know what the percentage is of people who do this. I know it's been a big meme, and the fact that Netflix once responded on Twitter to somebody posting about sharing their password, and I quote with "sharing is caring," has certainly caused them some trouble in enforcing this policy. But I mean, the policy's been in place the whole time. I think the mistake that they made was allowing it to sit idle and then going hard on it like this. I don't know.
I mean, they could bring Lance Ulrich on to do commercials about it. He seems to have mastered how to explain to people not to share things or get in trouble. Not Lance, Lars Ulrich. Sorry. Anyway, the drummer of Metallica.
Yeah.
They didn't get in trouble, but was so adamant against music sharing. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure the other services will do it too. It makes sense from their perspective. They have to maintain, they have to maintain their revenue. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's to test. Like, they've been talking about it for a long time. They know people aren't going to be happy about it, but it is what it is, right? So, in fact, I will throw this out there. Maybe they're actually going to, if this is the case, so they're going to do this punitively, right? But could you just sign up to do it purposefully? Because it sounds like it's cheaper than actually having two different people buy two different accounts.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, good point.
My guess is yes. My guess is you could just do it and bypass the slap on the wrist, but maybe you just do it and wait for the slap on the wrist and add the additional thing later. I'm going to tell you, I really hope that they don't try and hit me for it, because obviously my Netflix gets signed into so many devices that I use sometimes for product tests. Sometimes was it Netflix or Hulu? I can't remember, but I had a conversation with them. They're like, all right, so you're signed into how many devices? I get it. I know. I can explain, but I hope they don't come after me, because it's just me. It's my profile and a guest profile, and that's it. It's all me.
Well, that happened to me, but apparently, I was on a basic plan, but apparently, I can't remember how long ago it was, because my wife was watching Netflix and my daughter was watching it. And then I got this big pop-up box saying that too many people, or something that you have to be on a different plan. So I had to change up. So hopefully, and I use my tablet, monitor,
because of the number of concurrent streams.
More, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think that's what it was. So hopefully that doesn't happen to me, because I'm using tablet, computer, phone. So I agree with you. I hope it doesn't. I hope I'll get it costs more. I'm like, that happens. I'm like, goodbye, see it.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the possibility here, right? I mean, mm-hmm. I don't know how big of a possible. So it's guaranteed that will happen to some people, and they'll go, you know what? I'm done. But I think they're wagering that the number of people who will do that will be less than the number of people who will cough up the $3,
right?
By enough to offset it. So I don't know. I'm honestly, again, it's just me. But if I were in that position, I'm already so on the fence about Netflix. I'm with you, Kirk. That would be the end of it. It would be like, I'm out, y'all. We'll use. I like the fact that there's a developer screen that can be pulled up on Netflix that can't be pulled up really by anybody else publicly, so that I can do FPS and stuff like that. I can actually see how well the stream is performing, and 100% what state it's in and things like that. We used it, Abram. We used it a couple years ago when we were testing the whole only Internet Explorer and Edge got 1080p in the browser.
Right.
So I use that all the time, and I don't have that control panel on the other services, so I'd be sad, but I'd let it go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We don't know exactly when it'll hit, but we suspect that it'll be the beginning of next year, possibly in the April timeframe. But there's no hard and fast dates out there yet.
All right. And finally, so in the last episode, we broke down about Elon, speaking about Elon's new venture by selling perfume, called Burnt Hair. Then we discussed about bottles of farts. Now, in that vein, and it's legitimate, and you can make possibly $1,500. So how do you do that? All right, well, you can donate to the Good Nature program, which takes stool samples from the public, which they use to further research into gastrointestinal infections and disorders. Good Nature will pay you for your poop, and you can help save lives. So there's a Good Nature stool donation program. Basically, what that means is it collects poop from healthy individuals to study it with the goal of achieving medical treatment or providing therapies for the potentially fatal gastrointestinal disease C. difficile. If I'm pronouncing, I apologize. I'm not a medical doctor. But I'm playing on TV. It's a bacterium, excuse me, that can cause diarrhea and other life-threatening colonic conditions. So, if you want to participate in the program, you have regular bowel movements, age 18 to 50 years old. That counts me out. Are of a normal weight, don't smoke, have no history of gastrointestinal disease or alcohol or drug abuse, are not pregnant, and you live near one of the donation centers. Now,
that's the problem.
That right?
You can't just mail it to them?
No, we can't. So if you're lucky to live in Los Angeles, Boston, or Phoenix, Arizona, you are likely close enough to one of the donation sites to participate. You must be able to poop in one of the collection sites' restrooms in person at least 3 times a week. They'll also draw your blood every 2 to 6 weeks. Now, if you meet the criteria, you can fill out the online survey and wait to be contacted by the program. They'll follow up to let you know more information and answer any question they have. And we'll have a link of the story in the show notes. And if you go to the story, the bottom of the post, there's a link for the online survey.
If you apply, please let us know.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments or email us or send us a tweet. We don't need any visual evidence.
No. Either your application or your participation.
Nope. Just let us know how.
This is. I mean, I don't think folks should take money for this. This is your chance to say that you really give one. I mean, if they pay you for it, then you don't give.
Or 3 per week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, say, listen, I really give, and then there's someone to take it.
Right. Yeah. So, I think, this is
it's fascinating that both of those verbs are an expression.
Right.
To give and to take. They mean very different things.
Right. If you give one, then you care. But if you take one, then you're receiving something that you don't want. To be honest, usually if you gave it to me, I would not want to take it. So I get why someone wouldn't want to take it, but I don't get why someone would want to give it. But anyway.
And Abram, I'm with you, my man.
But
Hey,
Hands
Kirk.
down. Yes.
Did this story go in the direction you expected?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
As always. Food related, and like we said, we 99% of our
I
follow
guess
segment.
technically, you could consider it food related.
Oh,
I mean, it is part of the process.
it is part of the process. You're right. Well said. Okay. And with that, that is the tech news for this week for Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. And the final episode, the final special episode of GNC Week in Review and F5 Technology. Sure, check out the latest tech news and commentary from geeknewscentral.com, and be sure to tune in Mondays and Thursday evenings at geeknewscentral.com/live for the Geek News Central podcast. And then be sure to watch and tune in back on Friday for GNC Week in Review at gncweekly.com/live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, if you are new to podcasts, be sure to like and subscribe to the GNC WIR channel on YouTube. Also, please make sure to click on the bell and always select notifications so you will not miss the next episode. And also be sure to share this episode with people you know to check out the podcast and pass along the word. This podcast is easy to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And be sure to tune in to F5 Live Refreshing Technology with Scott and Abram Sunday evenings, back on Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be at f5live.tv/join us. Or be sure to subscribe to podcasts on your favorite podcast app. You have a comment on this week's episode, we'd love to hear them. Head on over to gncweekly.com/connect and connect via email, Twitter, or Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Kirk Corliss. Scott is on Twitter at CCMABO. Abram is on Twitter at Geek in Chief. Till the next episode of GNC Week in Review and F5 Live Refreshing Technology. So long.
Ciao.